Your body language is a secret weapon. Master it, and you'll not just communicate, but captivate, influence, and leave an unforgettable impact in every interaction. Master body language. Transform it into your communication skills. Written by Caliph Draven and published by Listen, Grow, Sleep. Introduction. The hidden language of success. What makes someone an exceptional communicator? Is it their choice of words, their tone of voice, the content of their message, or could it be something more fundamental, something we often overlook? Welcome to Master Body Language. Transform it into your communication skills superpower. I'm excited to take you on a journey to discover how your body speaks volumes before you even say a word. We all have brilliant ideas and important messages to share. But if these ideas remain locked in our heads and don't connect with our audience, they might as well not exist. This is where body language becomes your most powerful ally or your greatest liability. Think about it. Have you ever watched someone give a presentation where their nervous gestures completely distracted from their message? Or perhaps you've been captivated by a speaker whose confident stance and purposeful movements seem to amplify every word they spoke. The truth is, body language isn't just a small component of communication, it's a fundamental channel through which we connect with others. Research shows that in face-to-face interactions, over 50% of our message is communicated through body language, while only about 7% comes from the actual words we use. Yet despite its importance, most of us have never received formal training in how to use our bodies effectively when communicating. We focus on crafting the perfect words while neglecting the physical presence that delivers those words. In this audiobook, we'll transform body language from an unconscious habit into your communication superpower. You'll learn how to use posture and positioning to project confidence and authority, harness the power of purposeful gestures to emphasize your message, read and respond to your audience's body language. Eliminate distracting movements that undermine your credibility. Align your physical presence with your verbal message for maximum impact. By the end of our journey together, you'll no longer leave your body language to chance. You'll have the knowledge and techniques to ensure that every part of you, from your stance to your gestures to your facial expressions, works in harmony to deliver your message with maximum impact. So let's begin our exploration of the most underutilized communication tool at your disposal, your body language. Chapter 1. The power of posture. Standing for success. Have you ever noticed how some people command attention the moment they enter a room, before they've said a single word? That power comes largely from their posture, the way they hold and position their body. Your posture is the foundation of effective body language, and it communicates volumes about your confidence, authority, and credibility. Communication begins before you even open your mouth to speak. Your audience forms their first impression of you based on how you stand and where you position yourself. This initial impression then colors everything you say afterward. Let's start with a fundamental truth. You should stand facing the people you're talking to. This might seem obvious, but I've seen countless presenters who spend most of their time facing their slides or notes, turning their back to the audience. When you do this, you create a literal barrier between yourself and your listeners, making connection nearly impossible. Where you stand is just as important as how you stand. In any room, there's what I call the power position. Typically, the center of the space where you're visible to everyone and not blocked by furniture or other obstacles. When you occupy this central space confidently, you signal that you belong there, that you have something valuable to share. Equally important is avoiding positions that diminish your presence. Standing off to the side or in a corner can make you appear timid or uncertain. And never position yourself in front of distractions like windows, doorways, or screens with moving images. These pull your audience's attention away from you and fragment their focus. Now, let's talk about how to stand. I've observed 3 common posture problems that undermine speakers' effectiveness. The first is what I call the pocket dweller, hands buried deep in pockets, shoulders hunched forward. This posture communicates disinterest or lack of engagement. It suggests you'd rather be somewhere else. which immediately disconnects you from your audience. The second problematic posture is the hands-on hips stance. While this might feel powerful to you, it often comes across as aggressive or domineering to others. It creates a confrontational dynamic rather than an inviting one. The third is what some communication coaches humorously call the fig leaf position, hands clasped protectively in front of your lower body. This defensive posture signals insecurity and discomfort. It's particularly problematic when you try to gesture from this position, as your movements appear awkward and constrained. So what's the alternative? Let me guide you through finding your optimal base posture. Stand with your feet approximately hip-width apart, creating a stable foundation. This width provides balance without appearing too rigid or too casual. Allow your arms to hang naturally at your sides. This might feel uncomfortable at first if you're used to crossing your arms or clasping your hands, but it projects openness and confidence. Keep your shoulders relaxed but not slumped. Think proud but not stiff. Imagine a string gently pulling upward from the crown of your head, elongating your spine. Distribute your weight evenly on both feet rather than shifting from side to side, which creates a distracting rocking motion. This base posture might not feel natural initially, especially if you've developed different habits over time. But from an audience perspective, it appears confident, open, and engaged, the perfect foundation for effective communication. Practice this stance until it becomes second nature. Stand in front of a mirror or record yourself to see how small adjustments affect your overall appearance. The goal is to find a posture that projects confidence while still feeling authentic to you. Remember that your base posture is exactly that, a base from which you'll move and gesture. You won't stand frozen in this position throughout your communication. Instead, you'll return to it between movements and gestures, using it as your home base. Your posture also affects how you feel internally. Research on power posing by social psychologist Amy Cuddy suggests that adopting confident postures actually changes your body chemistry, increasing testosterone and decreasing cortisol, the stress hormone. In other words, standing confidently doesn't just make you appear more confident to others, it actually makes you feel more confident from the inside out. This mind-body connection works in both directions. When you're feeling nervous or uncertain, your body naturally adopts more protective, closed postures. By consciously adjusting your posture to a more open, confident stance, you can actually influence your emotional state. Before important communications, try spending 2 minutes in a power pose, standing tall with your chest open and arms either at your sides or slightly extended. This brief practice can create a positive feedback loop between your body and mind, helping you feel more confident when it matters most. Remember, your posture isn't just about how you look. It's about creating the optimal conditions for your message to be received. When your posture projects confidence and openness, your audience is more likely to perceive you as credible and engage deeply with your content. Chapter 2. Gesture Mastery. Speaking without words. Have you ever watched a speaker whose hands seem to dance in perfect harmony with their words, making their message come alive before your eyes? Gestures are powerful communication tools that can dramatically enhance your effectiveness as a speaker. Research shows that when speakers use appropriate gestures, audiences remember up to twice as much information compared to when the same content is delivered without gestures. But gestures don't just help your audience, they help you too. Studies have found that gesturing while speaking improves your own cognitive processing and memory recall. When your hands move in alignment with your message, your brain actually functions more efficiently. The challenge is that many of us use gestures unconsciously, often in ways that distract rather than enhance. Our hands flutter nervously, repeat the same motion endlessly, or remain completely still while our words cry out for visual emphasis. Let's transform your gestures from random movements into purposeful communication tools by exploring 3 fundamental types of gestures: the give, the show, and the chop. The give gesture is used when presenting information, options, or facts to your audience. With palms facing upward and hands open, you symbolically offer your ideas as a gift. This open-handed gesture signals honesty and transparency, inviting your audience to receive your information. For example, when sharing data points or listing options, extend your hands with palms up as if presenting these ideas on a platter. This gesture says, "Here's what I have for you to consider." The orientation of your palms makes a significant difference. Research has shown that when speakers use palms up gestures, audience compliance increases dramatically compared to palms down or finger pointing gestures. Specifically, palms up gestures result in 84% audience compliance, while palms down achieves only 52% and finger pointing a mere 28%. This makes intuitive sense. Being pointed at feels accusatory or commanding, while an open palm feels inviting and collaborative. The second essential gesture is the show. This category encompasses a wide variety of illustrative movements that visually represent your message. When you talk about growth, your hands might rise upward. When describing something large, your hands might spread wide apart. The key to effective show gestures is congruence. Your movements must match your message. If you're describing profits rising while your hands move downward, you create cognitive dissonance for your audience. Their brains must work harder to reconcile the conflicting signals, reducing their ability to absorb your message. Be creative with show gestures, but always ensure they visually reinforce rather than contradict your words. These illustrative gestures create mental images that make your message more memorable and impactful. The third fundamental gesture is the chop. This decisive, downward movement communicates conviction and emphasizes key points. Use it when delivering strong opinions or making important assertions that you want your audience to remember. The chop can be performed with one hand or both, with the two-handed version conveying even stronger emphasis. The sharp, defined nature of this gesture signals confidence and authority, showing that you stand firmly behind your words. As you incorporate these three gesture types, the give, the show, and the chop, into your communication, remember that timing is crucial. Your gestures should slightly precede or coincide with the related words, not follow them. When gestures lag behind your speech, they appear disconnected and can actually confuse rather than clarify. Also, be mindful of gesture size. In intimate settings with close proximity to your audience, smaller, more contained gestures are appropriate. In larger venues or when addressing larger groups, your gestures should expand to remain visible and impactful from a distance. One common mistake is what communication experts call T-Rex arms, keeping your elbows pinned to your sides while only your forearms move. This creates small, constrained gestures that lack impact and can make you appear nervous or uncomfortable. Allow your entire arm to participate in your gestures, originating movement from the shoulder rather than just the elbow or wrist. Another pitfall to avoid is continuous gesturing without purpose. Every movement should have meaning. Return to your base posture between gestures rather than keeping your hands in constant, meaningless motion. Practice incorporating these purposeful gestures by recording yourself speaking on various topics. Watch the recording with the sound off. Your gestures should still convey the general meaning and emphasis of your message even without words. Remember that cultural context matters with gestures. Some movements have different meanings across cultures, so be aware of your audience's background and adjust accordingly. When in doubt, the three fundamental gestures we've discussed, the give, the show, and the chop, are generally well received across most cultures. Ultimately, effective gestures create a deeper connection between you and your audience. They transform abstract ideas into visual experiences, making your message more engaging, memorable, and persuasive. Chapter 3: Reading the Room, Understanding Audience Body Language. So far, we've focused on your body language as a speaker, but communication is a two-way street, and one of the most powerful skills you can develop is the ability to read and respond to your audience's body language. As speakers, we can become so focused on our own performance that we fail to notice what's happening with our audience. Are they engaged and receptive? Confused and struggling to follow? Bored and mentally checking out? Their bodies will tell you if you know how to look. Have you ever presented to an audience that looked like this, slumped in their chairs, eyes glazed over, checking their watches or phones, perhaps even nodding off? We've all faced disengaged audiences, and we've all been that disengaged audience at some point. The difference between average communicators and exceptional ones often comes down to this. Exceptional communicators constantly read their audience and adjust accordingly. They treat communication as a dynamic conversation rather than a one-way broadcast. Let's explore 3 powerful strategies for developing this observational intelligence and using it to create more engaging interactions. The first strategy is to develop your peripheral awareness. While maintaining eye contact is important, you need to see beyond the eyes to gather complete information about your audience's engagement level. Notice how people are sitting. Are they leaning forward, a sign of interest and engagement, or are they leaning back with arms crossed, suggesting skepticism or resistance? Are they fidgeting restlessly, indicating boredom or discomfort with your message? Look for patterns of movement. If one person checks their phone, it might be an urgent message. If half your audience is suddenly looking at their devices, you've likely lost their attention and need to recapture it. Pay attention to facial expressions beyond simple eye contact. Are people nodding in agreement or furrowing their brows in confusion? These subtle cues provide valuable feedback about how your message is being received. The second strategy is to actively test engagement levels throughout your communication. Don't wait until the end to discover that your audience was lost 15 minutes ago. One effective technique is to periodically ask questions that require some form of response, whether verbal answers, a show of hands, or even just nodding. These engagement checks give you immediate feedback about your audience's attention level and understanding. You can also use what I call engagement invitations, statements that naturally prompt a physical response if people are following along. For example, you might be surprised by this next point. Naturally causes engaged listeners to shift their posture in anticipation. If you see no reaction, you know attention has wandered. The third and most powerful strategy is to develop your intervention skills. Techniques to re-engage an audience when you observe signs of disconnection. The most basic intervention is movement. Simply changing your position in the room can recapture wandering attention. Our eyes are naturally drawn to movement, so strategically moving to a different area can reset audience focus. Another effective intervention is pattern disruption. If you've been speaking in a consistent tone and pace, suddenly changing your volume or speaking rhythm creates novelty that reawakens attention. A well-timed pause can be particularly powerful, creating a moment of tension that pulls the audience back to you. For more significant engagement issues, don't be afraid to directly but tactfully address what you're observing. You might say, "I notice we may have some questions about this topic. Let me clarify a few key points before moving on." This acknowledges the disconnect without making the audience feel blamed or embarrassed. In smaller settings, you can use the power of direct address, what some call the cold call. While students might dread being called on, this technique is remarkably effective at bringing attention back to the present moment. A simple, "Jason, what's your perspective on this?" immediately raises the engagement level of not just Jason, but everyone else who realizes they might be next. Remember that your goal as a communicator isn't to deliver information, it's to create understanding and connection. If your audience isn't with you, even the most brilliant content falls flat. Think of audience engagement as a dance where you must constantly adjust to your partner's movements. When you notice signs of confusion, slow down and simplify. When you see boredom, introduce more dynamic elements or move to more engaging content. When you observe resistance, acknowledge concerns before proceeding. This responsive approach transforms communication from a performance into a conversation, even when you're the only one speaking. It creates a feedback loop where your observations inform adjustments, which improve engagement, which provides new observations, and so on. Developing this skill requires practice and intention. In your next few communications, make a conscious effort to spend less time thinking about your own performance and more time observing your audience. Set an intention to notice 3 specific things about their body language during your interaction. After each communication experience, reflect on what you observed and how you might have adjusted more effectively. Over time, this observation adjustment cycle will become second nature, allowing you to create truly dynamic, responsive communications. Remember the wisdom shared by presentation expert Nancy Duarte. As a communicator, you're not the hero of the story, your audience is. You're the guide helping them on their journey. Reading their body language is how you ensure you're guiding them effectively rather than leaving them behind. By mastering the art of reading audience body language, you complete the body language equation. You'll not only project confidence and clarity through your own physical presence, but also respond intelligently to the nonverbal feedback you receive, creating a virtuous cycle of increasingly effective communication. Chapter 4: Body language in high-pressure situations. Have you ever noticed how your body language changes under pressure? Your shoulders tense, breathing becomes shallow, and gestures turn erratic. These natural stress responses can undermine your communication effectiveness precisely when you need it most. High-pressure situations amplify both the importance and difficulty of effective body language. When stakes are high, our bodies often betray our anxiety, contradicting the confidence we're trying to project. The first step to managing body language under pressure is understanding the physiological stress response. When we perceive a threat, even a social one, like potential embarrassment, our bodies activate fight or flight. This causes our gestures to become tighter, posture to collapse inward, and facial expressions to become rigid, all signaling vulnerability when we want to project strength. To counteract these responses, start with breath control. Deep diaphragmatic breathing signals your nervous system that you're safe. Before any high-pressure situation, take 3 deep breaths. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 2, exhale for 6. This simple practice resets your physiology and creates a foundation for confident body language. Next, adopt expansive posture. Under stress, we instinctively make ourselves smaller, but research shows expanding your physical presence has powerful psychological effects. Stand or sit with your spine straight, shoulders back and relaxed, and claim your space. This posture not only signals confidence to others, but actually changes your hormonal balance, increasing testosterone and decreasing cortisol, the stress hormone. Be particularly mindful of self-pacifying behaviors, unconscious movements that provide comfort but signal insecurity. Touching your face, neck, or hair. Fidgeting with jewelry or clothing. Crossing your arms tightly, swaying or shifting weight repeatedly. Covering your mouth when speaking. The first step in managing these behaviors is awareness. Once you identify your habits, develop replacement behaviors. If you tend to fidget, practice keeping hands in a relaxed, ready position. If you touch your face when nervous, channel that energy into purposeful gestures instead. Another effective technique is anchoring. Before important communications, identify a physical position, perhaps hands lightly clasped in front of you, that you associate with confidence. In high-pressure moments, return to this anchored position to recenter yourself. For specific high-pressure scenarios, in job interviews, remember body language begins the moment you enter the building. Walk with purpose, make solid eye contact with everyone, and offer a firm handshake. When seated, lean slightly forward to demonstrate engagement. During difficult conversations, position yourself at a slight angle rather than directly face to face, which can feel confrontational. Maintain an open posture without crossed arms and use moderate eye contact, enough to show engagement without creating discomfort. For presentations, leverage deliberate movement. Plan your positioning in advance and move purposefully between positions during transitions. This helps the audience track your structure while giving you a physical outlet for nervous energy. Remember that perfect body language under pressure isn't about eliminating all signs of nervousness. That would appear robotic. Instead, manage the most distracting aspects of stress responses while channeling energy into purposeful expression. A moderate level of visible enthusiasm is often perceived as passion rather than nervousness. Practice is essential for maintaining effective body language under pressure. Record yourself in simulated high-pressure situations, then review with the sound off. This objective feedback helps identify patterns and track improvement. By mastering body language in high-pressure situations, you gain a tremendous advantage. While others are undermined by stress responses, you'll maintain a physical presence that projects confidence and credibility, even when your heart is pounding. Chapter 5: Facial Expressions and Eye Contact. Your face is the most expressive part of your body and where others focus most of their attention. The human face can produce over 10,000 different expressions, yet most of us are largely unaware of what our faces communicate moment to moment. The foundation of effective facial communication is authenticity. Research shows that artificial expressions are subtly different from genuine ones, and these differences are registered subconsciously by observers, undermining trust. The solution isn't perfecting a fake smile, but developing genuine engagement with your message. When you're truly connected to what you're saying, appropriate expressions flow naturally. There are specific aspects of facial expression you can consciously manage. First, be aware of your default facial expression, what your face does when not actively expressing emotion. Many people are surprised to learn their neutral face appears angry, bored, or judgmental. This resting face creates a first impression before you've said a word. If your default expression doesn't convey openness, practice a slightly more animated neutral expression, not a constant smile, but a face that's alert and receptive. Second, master the genuine smile. A real smile, the Duchenne smile, involves both the mouth and the eyes. The corners of the mouth turn up while the eyes slightly narrow with crow's feet at the corners. Practice by thinking of something that truly delights you while looking in a mirror. This authentic smile is your most powerful tool for establishing rapport. Third, develop awareness of micro-expressions, fleeting expressions that last for a fraction of a second and often reveal true feelings. While you can't completely control these involuntary reactions, awareness helps you develop more appropriate initial responses. Eye contact is perhaps the most impactful element of facial communication. Strong, appropriate eye contact signals confidence and engagement, while inadequate eye contact suggests insecurity or disinterest. In Western business settings, a good guideline is maintaining eye contact for about 60 to 70% of the time while speaking and 80 to 90% while listening. Not a continuous stare, but with brief natural breaks. When addressing groups, practice democratic eye contact, connecting briefly with individuals throughout the audience. Complete a thought while maintaining eye contact with one person before moving to another for your next point. In virtual communications, eye contact means looking at the camera, not at the faces on your screen. Position your camera at eye level and practice looking directly at it, especially when making important points. For those who find sustained eye contact uncomfortable, try focusing on one eye or on the triangle formed by both eyes and the nose. Practice in low-pressure situations to build comfort. Use facial expressions strategically in different contexts. For building rapport, increase your facial expressiveness. Allow your face to react naturally, showing interest, surprise, or agreement as appropriate. For projecting authority, moderate your expressions with controlled warmth that suggest emotional stability. Fewer, more deliberate expressions are perceived as more authoritative than highly animated ones. When delivering difficult messages, align your expression with the seriousness of the content. Many people unconsciously smile when nervous, which can be disastrous when delivering serious news. When receiving feedback, avoid defensive facial expressions like eye rolling or jaw tightening. Practice an expression of open consideration that shows you're willing to listen. Remember that facial expressions are most impactful at the beginning and end of interactions. The expression you wear when first greeting someone sets the emotional tone, while your concluding expression leaves a lasting impression. By mastering facial expressions and eye contact, your face becomes a precision instrument for connection and persuasion, a critical component of your body language superpower. Chapter 6: Cultural Differences in Body Language. In our increasingly global world, Understanding cultural variations in body language isn't just interesting, it's essential. A gesture that communicates confidence in one culture might signal aggression in another. To truly master body language, we must develop cultural fluency. Let's begin with a fundamental principle. There is no universal body language. While certain expressions, like the genuine smile, have similar meanings across cultures, most body language is culturally specific. This means we must approach cross-cultural communication with humility and curiosity rather than assumptions. Consider these examples of cultural differences. In North America, direct eye contact signals honesty and attention. In many East Asian cultures, prolonged eye contact with superiors is considered disrespectful. In some Middle Eastern contexts, men may avoid eye contact with women out of respect. The thumbs up gesture signals approval in Western cultures, but is highly offensive in parts of the Middle East and West Africa, equivalent to the middle finger in American culture. Personal space norms vary dramatically. North Americans typically maintain about 18 to 24 inches of personal space in professional interactions. In many Latin and Middle Eastern cultures, comfortable conversation distance is much closer. In some East Asian cultures, greater physical distance is the norm. Even nodding the head has different meanings across cultures. In most Western contexts, nodding means yes or agreement. In Bulgaria and parts of Greece, however, nodding up and down means no, while shaking the head side to side means yes. These differences create significant potential for misunderstanding. When we encounter body language that differs from our expectations, we tend to interpret it through our own cultural lens rather than recognizing it as a cultural difference. So how do we develop the cultural intelligence to navigate these differences effectively? Here's a practical framework. First, develop awareness of your own cultural body language patterns. Start noticing the unspoken rules you follow. How close do you stand to others? How much eye contact feels appropriate? Which gestures do you use unconsciously? Second, research specific body language norms before interacting with people from different cultural backgrounds. Focus especially on eye contact norms, personal space expectations, greeting rituals, taboo gestures, touching behaviors, expressions of agreement, disagreement. Third, observe carefully during cross-cultural interactions. Notice how others use their body language and how they respond to yours. Fourth, adapt thoughtfully. The goal isn't to completely adopt another culture's body language patterns, which could seem inauthentic. Instead, make mindful adjustments to avoid behaviors that might cause offense while remaining true to yourself. Fifth, when in doubt, ask. If you're uncertain about a body language norm, a simple question shows respect and prevents misunderstanding. Key cultural dimensions that affect body language include power distance, how cultures view hierarchy and authority. In high power distance cultures like many Asian, African and Latin American societies, body language often reinforces status differences. In low power distance cultures like Scandinavian countries, body language tends to minimize status differences. Individualism versus collectivism also shapes body language. Individualistic cultures like the United States often feature more expansive gestures and expressions of personal distinctiveness. Collectivist cultures like many East Asian societies may emphasize more restrained gestures that promote group harmony. Expressiveness norms vary widely across cultures. Mediterranean, Latin American and Middle Eastern societies often feature highly expressive body language with animated gestures and visible emotional expressions. Northern European and East Asian cultures typically value more restrained nonverbal communication. Touch behaviors are perhaps the most variable. In high contact cultures like those in Latin America and Southern Europe, touch is frequent in conversation. In low contact cultures like Japan and Britain, touch is more limited, especially in professional settings. When navigating these differences, beware of 3 common pitfalls. First, avoid stereotyping, assuming everyone from a particular culture follows the same nonverbal patterns. Individual variation is enormous within cultures. Second, avoid overcompensation, changing your body language so dramatically that you appear uncomfortable or inauthentic. Subtle adjustments are usually sufficient. Third, avoid ethnocentrism, judging other cultures' body language as wrong rather than different. Approach differences with curiosity rather than judgment. For those working in multicultural environments, consider developing a cultural body language toolkit, a repertoire of adjustable behaviors you can modify based on context. Remember that in cross-cultural interactions, intention matters. Most people are forgiving of body language mistakes when they sense a genuine effort to respect their culture. Approach cross-cultural body language with humility, curiosity, and a willingness to learn. Chapter 7. Body language in virtual communication. The digital revolution has transformed how we communicate. Video calls, virtual presentations, and online meetings have become standard in our professional and personal lives. But how does body language translate to these virtual environments? Many people assume that body language matters less in virtual settings. This assumption couldn't be further from the truth. Body language becomes even more critical in virtual environments, where other sensory cues are limited and the camera creates a magnifying effect on your nonverbal signals. The first principle of effective virtual body language is understanding the frame effect. On video, you're working within a frame that dramatically focuses attention on what's visible. Subtle facial expressions, small movements, and even background elements become amplified in their impact. This creates both challenges and opportunities. Small distracting movements become much more noticeable than in person. However, subtle positive body language, a genuine smile, an affirming nod, or engaged eye contact, can create powerful connection even across digital distance. Your virtual setup forms the foundation of effective virtual body language. Position your camera at eye level or slightly above. Looking up creates a submissive impression, while looking down creates a domineering one. Ensure good lighting that illuminates your face clearly, ideally from in front rather than above or below. Create a professional, non-distracting background. The central challenge of virtual body language is eye contact. In virtual environments, eye contact means looking at the camera, not at the faces on your screen. When you look at the camera, others experience you as making direct eye contact with them. Look at the camera when speaking, especially when making important points. When listening, you can look at the person's image on screen. A useful technique is positioning your video window directly under your camera to minimize the distance between where you're looking and the camera. Posture remains crucial in virtual settings. Since others typically see you from the chest or shoulders up, how you hold this visible portion significantly impacts perceptions. Sit with your spine straight but not rigid, shoulders relaxed and slightly back. Leaning slightly forward toward the camera creates a sense of engagement and interest. Gestures require special adaptation for virtual environments. The limited frame means that large gestures may be partially invisible. The solution is to bring gestures into the frame using more compact versions of the give, show, and chop gestures. Keep your hands slightly higher than in person, roughly between chest and chin level. Be mindful of the camera frame boundaries. Gestures that move in and out of frame can be distracting. Facial expressions become particularly important in virtual communication, as your face occupies a much larger percentage of what others see. In virtual settings, slightly amplify your facial expressiveness by about 15 to 20% beyond what feels natural to compensate for the flattening effect of video. Pay particular attention to your listening face. In virtual meetings, your face is visible to everyone, even when you're not speaking. Practice active listening expressions, slight nodding, appropriate smiles, and engaged eye focus. For movement, incorporate micro movements that create energy without causing distraction. Subtle weight shifts, small hand gestures, and dynamic facial expressions create visual interest without disrupting the frame. Voice becomes an extension of body language in virtual settings. Speak about 10% more slowly than in person. Use slightly more vocal variety and incorporate deliberate pauses to emphasize key points. For virtual presentations specifically, stand rather than sit when possible, using a standing desk or elevated setup. Create moments of connection by occasionally moving slightly closer to the camera when making key points. Use props and visual aids that you can physically hold up to the camera. In hybrid meetings, where some participants are in person and others are virtual, use more deliberate signals to indicate when you want to speak if you're virtual. If you're in the room with some participants while others are virtual, regularly look at the camera to include remote attendees. Remember that virtual body language improves with conscious practice. Record your virtual meetings with permission and review them with the sound off to refine your virtual presence over time. Chapter 8. Integrating your body language superpower. Throughout this audiobook, we've explored the components of effective body language, from posture and gestures to facial expressions and cultural adaptations. Now it's time to integrate these elements into a cohesive whole, transforming body language from a set of techniques into your personal communication superpower. Integration begins with alignment, ensuring that all aspects of your body language work in harmony rather than contradiction. When your posture, gestures, facial expressions, and spatial positioning send consistent messages, your communication becomes exponentially more powerful. When these elements contradict each other, the inconsistency creates confusion and undermines trust. Let's explore how to create this powerful alignment in different communication contexts, and how to develop body language that authentically expresses your unique personality and values. The first principle of integration is congruence between your verbal and non-verbal communication. Your words and your body should tell the same story. When you say, "I'm excited about this opportunity," while your body appears closed, tense, or disengaged, the contradiction is jarring. Listeners almost always trust the non-verbal message over the verbal one in cases of contradiction. Developing this congruence requires self-awareness. Before important communications, take a moment to clarify, not just what you want to say, but how you feel about what you're saying. If you're genuinely enthusiastic, allow that enthusiasm to manifest in your body language. If you're concerned, let your expression reflect appropriate seriousness rather than forcing artificial positivity. Sometimes you'll need to communicate messages you don't fully feel, perhaps expressing confidence in a plan you have some doubts about, or showing enthusiasm for a project you didn't choose. In these situations, focus on finding the authentic aspect of the message that you can genuinely embody. Perhaps you're confident in the team even if you have doubts about the plan, or you're enthusiastic about certain elements of the project even if you didn't choose it. By anchoring your body language in this authentic element, you create congruence that others will perceive as genuine rather than forced. This approach maintains integrity while still allowing you to be an effective team player and communicator. The second principle of integration is adapting your body language to different communication contexts while maintaining your authentic presence. Think of this as having different body language registers, just as you might use different vocabulary and tone when speaking to a child versus a colleague, while still being authentically yourself. Let's explore how to adapt your integrated body language for different contexts. For leadership communications, integrate posture that claims space, measured gestures that emphasize key points, facial expressions that convey appropriate gravity mixed with approachability, and positioning that allows you to see and be seen by everyone. The overall effect should communicate confidence tempered with openness to input, authority without authoritarianism. For collaborative discussions, integrate a more open posture that places you at the same level as others, inclusive gestures that invite participation, engaged facial expressions that show genuine interest in others' contributions, and positioning that creates a sense of equality. The overall effect should communicate that you're a thoughtful contributor to a shared endeavor. For empathetic conversations, integrate a posture that creates connection without intrusion, gentle gestures that express support, facial expressions that show compassion without pity, and positioning that respects emotional boundaries while offering presence. The overall effect should communicate that you're fully present and caring without overwhelming the other person. For persuasive communications, integrate a grounded posture that projects conviction, purposeful gestures that emphasize benefits and opportunities, facial expressions that convey appropriate enthusiasm, and positioning that creates connection with the audience. The overall effect should communicate genuine belief in your message and its value to the audience. Within each of these contexts, your integrated body language should still reflect your unique personality. An introvert and an extrovert might both be effective leaders, but their body language will naturally differ in ways that reflect their authentic selves. The goal isn't to adopt a standardized set of movements, but to express your authentic self in ways that effectively serve your communication purpose. The third principle of integration is developing body language that expresses your personal brand, the distinctive qualities and values you want to be known for. Just as organizations have visual identities, individuals have nonverbal identities that make them recognizable and memorable. To develop your personal body language brand, start by identifying 3 to 5 qualities that define how you want to be perceived, perhaps thoughtful, energetic, and approachable, or confident, precise, and innovative. Then consider how these qualities might manifest in body language. For example, thoughtful might manifest as measured pacing, deliberate gestures, and attentive listening expressions. Energetic might show up as animated facial expressions, dynamic movement patterns, and vibrant gesturing. Approachable might appear as open posture, inclusive gestures, and warm facial expressions. By consciously developing body language that expresses these core qualities across different contexts, you create a consistent nonverbal identity that people come to associate with you. This consistency builds trust and makes your communication more impactful. The fourth principle of integration is developing the ability to read and respond to the integrated body language of others. Throughout this audiobook, we've discussed how to observe specific elements of others' nonverbal communication. The next level is developing the ability to synthesize these observations into a holistic understanding of what others are communicating beyond their words. This integrated reading involves looking for patterns and contradictions across different body language channels. If someone's words express agreement but their posture is closed, their gestures are minimal, and their facial expression is flat, you're likely observing polite disagreement rather than genuine alignment. As you develop this skill, you'll move from conscious observation to intuitive understanding, what we often call reading the room. This doesn't mean making assumptions about others' thoughts or feelings, but rather developing sensitivity to the nonverbal currents in any interaction. The final and perhaps most important principle of integration is practice, not just of individual techniques, but of holistic communication. The body language superpower we've been developing throughout this audiobook isn't something you switch on for important presentations and off for everyday interactions. It's a continuous practice of mindful, effective, nonverbal communication. Here are some integrated practice approaches to develop your body language superpower. The mirror practice. Spend 5 minutes daily in front of a mirror, practicing integrated body language for different communication scenarios. This might feel awkward initially, but it develops your awareness of how different elements work together. The video review. Record yourself in various communication situations and review with the sound off, observing the integration of your body language elements. Look for both congruence and contradictions. The trusted feedback partner. Ask a colleague or friend who you trust to give you specific feedback on your integrated body language. What message does your body language convey to them? Does it align with your intentions? The observation practice. Regularly observe skilled communicators, in person, in videos, or in recorded presentations. Notice how they integrate different body language elements to create a cohesive, powerful presence. The real-world laboratory. Choose one body language integration focus for each day or week. Perhaps one day you focus on aligning your facial expressions with your message, and another day you focus on integrating purposeful gestures with your verbal emphasis points. As you continue these practices, what once required conscious effort will become second nature. Your body language will increasingly become an authentic, integrated expression of your thoughts, feelings, and intentions, your true communication superpower. Remember that mastering body language isn't about perfection. Even the most skilled communicators have moments of incongruence or ineffective nonverbal expression. The goal is progress, not perfection, becoming increasingly aware of and effective with your nonverbal communication over time. By integrating the principles and practices we've explored throughout this audiobook, you transform body language from an unconscious habit into a powerful tool for connection, influence, and authentic self-expression. Your body becomes a finely tuned instrument that amplifies your message, expresses your unique personality, and creates meaningful connection with others. Thank you for joining me on this journey to master body language. I hope the insights and techniques we've explored will serve you well in all your communications, helping you express your best self and connect more deeply with others. Your body language superpower awaits. All you need to do is claim it.